Just in these two plots alone, there are more soldiers buried than in the entire Normandy American cemetery.
Golly, bro. Woo! Guys, look at me. I look different. Suggestion made to me. Okay, suggestion made to me.
That in order to fully understand and appreciate World War II, a person really needs to understand and appreciate World War I.
Facts, 100%. But 100%. Bro, I hate those people who only know about World War II and they claim to be history buffs and they know nothing about World War I, and it annoys me so much.
Left a scar, literally and figuratively, across the nation of France that would have ripple effects for generations. Right now, I'm in the area of Arras. I'm going to be here for a few days, kind of exploring the history of the First World War in this area. And I just happened to drive by this French cemetery right here. Driving around, there are cemeteries everywhere in this area. I mean, you don't even have to look for them. They're just all over the place. And this one right here, as big as it is not even the biggest one in this area.
Wow. Yo, I'm not gonna lie, bro. This looks like so gorgeous with the French flag there. I don't know why, but it just has a type of aura with it. I don't know. I just can't describe it. I can't be the only one feeling this right now. But I thought I paused the video. Hold on a sec. There we go. Gettysburg Museum of History. Ooh. Visiting the largest military cemetery in France. Bro, if I had a dream, this would be my dream, bro. I don't really have any dreams in life, but this would be my dream. Being able to travel and just visit all of these historical monuments and sites, man. That would be my dream right there, honestly.
In 1914, the unstoppable force full-on clashed into the immovable object here on the Western Front. And as the Central Powers and the Allies found themselves becoming more and more entrenched and not being able to go through each other, the next available option was to try and go around. This started something that became known as the Race to the Sea, where both the Allies and the Central Powers were trying to outflank each other to get to the English Channel first. Well, if you would have been a French citizen during this period of time, you would not want your village or town to be in the path of these two juggernauts. And the spot where I'm at right now, in Ablain St Nazir, found themselves in that unfortunate position.
Guys, even though I do advertise myself as English, because that's the country that I grew up in, the country that I grew up in is an English country. I'm partially, I still have a bit of French blood running through me from my mother's side. In fact, my surname is literally French. In fact, originally speaking, actually, my mother's country was a French colony at first, but the British took it over. It's actually the most swapped hands. It swapped hands, I think, 13 times between the British and the French. So what happened was the leftover, like, European French people and the leftover Africans that assimilated and spoke French and French Creole. They were just left over, right? And even now to this very day, they all know how to speak French, and they all know how to speak that French Creole. Even my mother, she very much knew how to speak French Creole as well. So I'm just the only one who doesn't know how to speak it. What I'm saying is, because I know I'm gonna get like one comment who's gonna say, "Oh, but French Creole isn't French." Blah 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 blah. The French Caribbean is an integral part of France today. It is on the same status as metropolitan France today. So it is a core part of France. So, had my mother's country, St. Lucia, stayed a French colony, it would have been a part of the French Caribbean today. And it would have been a core part of France today. And the reason why the French Caribbean even became a part of France so easily was because, well, they were Frankified for such a long time. Same thing that happened to us in Barbados. We never swapped hands with anyone, so we became English just because we were just such a colony for so long, literally so long. I actually heard that there was a plan to make Barbados an English province. I'm not sure how true that is, though. I heard that from one person who lived in England, and he was like, "Oh yeah, there was plans to make Barbados an English province because it was so English." But I don't know, man. I never really heard any details. I'm not sure how true that is. But the reason why I'm saying this is because some of these people here, I still have some French ancestry. I do. I still have some French ancestry. I do. Okay? In fact, I even asked my brother, I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, how could we have a French last name, but we're like, we're not like European? And he was like, well, it's obvious because one of our black ancestors married a European ancestor, and back then, when you were a black person back then and you married a European in the Caribbean, you took their name. And he was like, well, think about it. One of our black ancestors married a white ancestor, and they took their name, and they produced their descendants, and that's how we're a thing. That's the meaning of Creole, mixed. So no, I do very much have French ancestry. I know I have French ancestry. It's just that I just identify more with my English on my father's side. And the fact that I grew up in Barbados is because that's a culture that I'm around. So some of my ancestors could have been here. This partially affects me too. I'm just saying, man.
I want you to think for a moment about the community that you live in. And think about what it would be like if war came to the place where you live and you had to evacuate. And when you came back, there was nothing left. It was just rubble. Well, that is exactly what happened to Ablain St Nazir. So if you look at this town, it doesn't look like there's anything that's just like exceptionally old by European standards. That's because there's nothing in this town that is older than 1918, 1920. This whole village had to be completely rebuilt. Just absolutely awful. Ablain St Nazir sits at the base of a ridge, and this was in German hands at the end of 1914 and through the spring of 1915. And the Germans wanted to keep it, and the French wanted to take it back. And the only thing left
Hate seeing ads?
from the war is this shell of the church. So if we go up here, we'll get up on the other side of this fence. You can see The only thing that I guess you could say survived from the fighting that took place here in the First World War. The Germans had this set up as an artillery observation position. The French knew it, and they just bombed the heck out of this church to deny the Germans a artillery observation position.
Disgusting. Disgusting. Not the French, what the French did. I'm talking about what the Germans did. That's actually disgusting. Come on. A church? Really? Come on. A place of worship? Disgusting. Why would you? Oh my gosh, dude. That is so appalling to me. Just my personal opinion. Really? Come on. Honestly. If they did it to any other religious site or any other cultural site, I would still be equally as disgusted. I just personally believe that you just leave those stuff out of the conflict. Goodness gracious me.
This was a 16th century church, so it was a historic church. And
wow.
Yeah, you can
16th
see
century,
what
wow.
happened to it. After the war, rather than rebuild the church right here, they decided to leave this shell as an everlasting reminder of what had happened in this village. And then they built a new church up the hill. And just beyond this is the high ground that the French were wanting to desperately take back, and they would expend thousands upon thousands of lives to make it happen.
Man, I really wish you could see those photos in color. It would really like show the impact, bro. The devastating impact, honestly. Much more. Wow. This is a fantastic video so far. I love it.
I've made my way up to the top of the plateau of the Notre Dame de Lorette, and once you get up here, you can see why the Germans were fighting so hard to keep this position and why the French wanted it so bad. I mean, the view from here is spectacular. So obviously for any army, this is going to give a commanding view of everything around, be good for artillery position and spotting, things like that. And there was some vicious fighting that took place here in the early part of World War II. Everybody focuses on Verdun, but there was some heavy combat that took place here on this plateau. So the Germans originally occupied it, I think in October of 1914, in the Race to the Sea. And then the French ended up fighting them for it over like the next 6 months. And then eventually were able to take it. So here on this plateau, there's like 5 different spurs that come off of it. So each one of those spurs had to be taken. And it is now the site of the largest French military cemetery in France.
Wow. Wow. That is so awesome. That is actually so freaking awesome.
Into the cemetery here at Notre Dame de Lorette. And standing here, you can really get a sense of the scale of loss and sacrifice that France experienced during the First World War. There are over 40,000 graves in this cemetery.
$40,000 graves. The population of my country is 280,000 people. The population of my mother's country is around 180,000 people. That is 1/6 the population of my country. That's wild to me.
Well, standing here and looking at all of these rows of crosses back to back is really sobering. If you look at the view in front of us now, we are only looking at half of the cemetery, and these rows of crosses go on for as far as the eye can see. Now, originally, again, as I mentioned, this is a battlefield right here that we are standing on. There was a small chapel up here that had been built in the late 1700s, and this was kind of like a pilgrimage place for a lot of people. Well, the chapel, of course, was completely destroyed. What we're seeing here is a chapel that was rebuilt after the war. And the French official history talked about the conclusion of this battle. And it says, the Germans were beaten and the chapel in ruins was left behind. Beyond was an inextricable, chaotic tangle of underground passages and shelters, mine craters and shell holes, encumbered with dead, arms and equipment and stores. So this place was just completely devastated after the battle, and then became a bit of a collection cemetery for the French, where in the area of the Pas de Calais, where they brought their dead and buried them. One of the more prominent features here in this cemetery is this lantern tower.
That is such a gorgeous looking tower. I was very curious about it. I wanted to hear what he had to say about that.
This was built in the years after the war to commemorate the fallen of France here in this area. And inside, they also have the remains, unknown remains of a soldier from the Second World War, and also war in North Africa, and also the French War in Indochina.
Oh, wow. Wow. Dang. I didn't know that.
Not go in there today because they are doing some restoration work. I don't claim to do a lot of things well, but one of the things that I excel at is showing up to sites on days when they are doing some kind of construction work.
I feel like if I ever get the opportunity to travel around and see historical sites, I feel like I would be in that unfortunate position as well.
Here's something else that I can show. I want you to take a look at these two seemingly empty plots. So if we walk over here, you'll notice that there are no headstones in here. It's just this walled off portion of the cemetery, but it is not empty. Inside of these walls, as we can see right here, are the unknown remains of 4,563 soldiers.
I figured. I honestly figured. I really did figure.
Again, we have another one of these seemingly empty plots, but this is another mass grave holding the remains of 5,649 soldiers. So just to give you a little bit of perspective or something to compare to, just in these two plots alone, there are more soldiers buried than in the entire Normandy American cemetery.
Golly, bro! Woo! I didn't realize it was that big. Woo!
And these aren't the only spots like this in this place. And that is something else. Typically when I visit these cemeteries, I try and highlight some of the soldiers who are interred there and tell their stories. To be honest, that's difficult for me here. For English speakers, there aren't a whole lot of resources out there for French military history, at least not.
And this is the thing, right? This is why I really feel like I should probably go learn how to speak different languages, is because, bro, you won't be able to learn history as much as you can of different places, frankly speaking, unless you know how to speak, that country's language. Because you'll be able to read everything from the get-go, Because when stuff is translated, a lot of fiddling can happen, right? And I don't know, man. I don't know what language. I want to learn every language in every major family. Like, I probably would learn German from Germanic, probably French from the Latin family, the Romance family, and probably like Russian from the Slavic family, right? Every major language family, I would definitely love to learn that language. Cause dude, you just you're just like so held back when you don't know the language. Like there's so much that you're missing out, and I know it.
That I'm aware of, and that's a shame because I really want to learn more.
I
Here's what I do.
know
This is the
exactly.
grave of Ernest Barbeau. To my knowledge, he's the highest-ranking individual buried here. He was the commander of the 77th Infantry Division, which fought here in this area. And where the present-day Cabaret Rouge Commonwealth War Grave Cemetery is, he had established a headquarters in a trench and was hit by shrapnel while running across open ground. He was mortally wounded and died later at a dressing station. There's a memorial to him down in Souchez, to him and the 77th. But anyway, here's the grave of Ernest Barbeau.
Love that.
Now, I mentioned...
Love that. Honestly, love that. Look, say what you want about the French. And, I can't even cap because I do this too, but the French were some hard fighters. The French were some extremely hard fighters. Do I believe that they had help? Yeah. Like, if it was just France versus Germany alone, like, France knew that it couldn't withstand Germany alone, but it did everything to its best of ability. I gotta give credit where credit is due. Honestly,
how this cemetery sits on a battlefield. We've talked a little bit about some of the vicious fighting that took place here in 1914 and 1915, and I want to show you what I just found. So if you look here, you can see that the groundskeepers have plowed up all of the ground in front of these crosses, probably getting ready to plant some new flowers. And I was walking by and just happened to see this shell casing laying right here in the dirt. That is something else.
wow.
All of these years later,
Yeah, it's still there.
The field is still giving up some of its secrets.
Yo, that's mad, bro.
I mentioned how, as an English speaker, it's sometimes difficult to get access to French military history when it comes to the Great War beyond anything that's just kind of surface level, which is really a shame. So I will freely admit that when it comes to the French actions here on the plateau of Notre Dame de Lorette, my knowledge is kind of limited, but that's why I'm here, here to learn. What we are looking at right now is a monument to General Maestra, I think is how you say his last name. He was the general in command of the French 21st Division. That is the division that ended up securing these heights in the spring of 1915, and I really like this monument. You can see he's there with a regular soldier, and he's standing among these pockmarked ruins. This monument...
Fun fact, monuments actually used to be colored. They just turned white over time. A lot of people didn't know that, so the trend of making monuments white just stuck around.
The monument was dedicated in May of 1927, so within 10 years of the end of the war, and is placed at the spot that is thought to be the command post of General Maestra. All right, so that was a little bit from the cemetery, but there's one more memorial that they have up here that I really want to show. Just entered into the Ring of Remembrance, and what you are looking at are all of these panels, and on these panels are over 580,000 names of soldiers who died, not in just World War I in general, but World War I in the Pas-de-Calais region. So just this region where we are today. That is absolutely wild. And the 580,000 names are from all nationalities. They're all in alphabetical order. They're not divided up by country. So you have Germans, Belgians, French, British, people from all over the world whose names are here.
Shout out to France for honoring other people from other nationalities. Shout out to France for that. Yo, my respect for France goes up just a little bit.
On these walls, just kind of adding weight to the overall tragedy of this conflict. I'm just going to point out a few names etched into these panels. Here is the name of Francois Fabre. Francois Fabre was the winner of the 1909 Tour de France and was killed here in this area. So here we have an elite athlete who lost his life in the Great War.
Wow.
Here in the K section, we have the name John Kipling. This man was the son of author and poet Rudyard Kipling. There in the middle of the screen, you can see the name Paul Malk. Paul Malk was a soldier in the German army and is thought to be the youngest enlisted soldier who was killed during the war. He died in June of 1915 and was 14 years old when he died.
Damn!
Here among all of the names on this panel, you come across one that is a little bit different. This name right here, that of Joseph Standing Buffalo. Joseph Standing Buffalo fought with the Canadians and was killed in September of 1918 in the area of Arras, and was the grandson of Chief Sitting Bull. So Chris Mowry, on one of his channels, I think it will probably, at the time that I'm filming this, I think it's going to be on his Stories of the Great War channel, is going to be visiting the grave of Joseph Standing Buffalo. So you'll want to check that out.
Woo! This is one of the coolest things that I've learned about so far. This is actually insanely cool.
At the beginning of this video, I made the comment that in order to fully understand and appreciate the Second World War, you really need to understand and appreciate the First World War. And I think coming to places like this really helps with that. I know, speaking from an American perspective, when you get to World War II, it's pretty easy to make derisive comments about the fact that, France surrendered to the Germans in 1940. But when you come to places like this and you
honestly, I'm gonna be so real right now, even though I'm like one of the main dudes who like to bash on France a lot. Not like in general, but like in World War II. Had Ramos' panzers got encircled, because it could have happened. Their lines they went way above beyond their lines, man. They could have easily got encircled. That whole thing would have like, I don't think France would have fell had Ramos' panzers. Yes, they broke through the Ardennes, but I'm pretty sure France would have been able to establish defensive lines. I don't know. The French high command really did feel the French troops were valiant. but the high command. Because, guys, the reason why Dunkirk was even possible, the reason why the British were able to evacuate Dunkirk was because of the French troops who sacrificed themselves, who stayed behind. Had the French troops not done that, Dunkirk would have never happened. The miracle at Dunkirk would have never happened. People always talk about, oh yes, the British and the citizens brought the ships and blah blah blah. Yes, they did, but it was still the French troops who literally like allowed the British to go. Without them, Dunkirk would have never. So you gotta like give France credit where credit is due. To be honest, like even I do it all the time. Like I know like to bash on France, but still.
Of the loss that France endured in the First World War, it gives you pause. Maybe it wouldn't be so easy for them to just jump right back into another war after having lost an entire generation and had towns and cities destroyed. But anyway, those are just a few things that I've been thinking about today as I've been walking the ground here. But that was a little bit from here at Notre Dame de Lorette.
That wonderful video that I was suggested. Wonderful video that I was suggested, man. You made it all the way here to the end of the video. Make sure you subscribe. If you made it here, you probably like what I have to say. You like my reactions. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like. If you got any suggestions for me, go and comment it down below. Eventually, I will do it. Go check out my other reactions on my channel. I have plenty of other historical reactions on my channel. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.